My man Gian Harris popped in here on the Zapata brand here to join us. We're going to talk everything Berwick. Is an unusual one today. Gian, you reached out to me a while ago and it was a good idea. I thought we should do it. Now, how this goes, I don't know.
I mean, you know how it's going to go. There's going to be some times where people are going to take what we say, a little.
I hope not.
I hope not either, because it's like we're giving flowers more than anything than it is like criticizing.
I don't think we criticizing is what they'll take it as, but you never know.
Never know. Yeah, exactly.
But I did go through a list today. I went through a couple things. I talked to some of the people who were athletes, business people in the town to get kind of an idea about Berwick. So first, what I'm going to do, I want to give the history of Berwick.
Berwick sits along the Susquehanna River. Founded by Evan Owen, the area was first settled in 1769, officially founded in 1786, and incorporated in 1818. Berwick is notable for such industries as American Car and Foundry and Wise Potato Chips. Berwick is also known for its high school football team, the Bulldogs, who have clinched 6 state championships and 3 national titles. One of the most beloved traditions since 1947 is the Christmas Boulevard. Created by the JCs, it lights up Market Street with over a mile of festive displays, drawing thousands of visitors each year. One of the most intriguing traditions is the Run for the Diamonds. Every Thanksgiving, thousands of runners come to one place in Berwick.
Because when I first got here, it was different because, and we're going to get into the pizza stuff and everything else, because I can remember going to Berwick and I asked for a slice of pizza. And they were just like, no, we don't do slices.
Wow.
Yeah, they just do total sheets. And I'm like, I never even knew what a sheet was. I'm like, what? Like, we call it pizza pie, and I never knew it.
Wow.
And so that was different for me. For you, you grew up in Berwick, but your dad was from upriver. Was it a different culture?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, like, you got to think back in that time too, how the time frame was. It was kind of like very like against interracial couples and stuff like
right
that.
So for context, your dad's black.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, it's not of course.
Of course, I know, but yeah, he is black, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
In my eyes, it's just so easy to say,
right?
That's just what I was raised on, and it was different for that time frame where you have an African American with an Italian,
right?
And the Bronx Tales. If you go back to that movie and all that stuff, you could kind of see how it was, but there was nothing to knock it against that of like the community. It was just new,
right?
So you got to adjust to it, and that's how the culture is here in Berwick. Also, you have to adjust to that culture, and you have to adjust to a lot of things in life. And I think that's what the beauty of maturing and growing up in a town like this.
Yeah,
it shows how diverse something can be.
Where'd you go to school? Elementary?
I went to Orange Street.
You went to Orange Street?
Yeah, it was Orange Street till I die. And then
did you have my wife?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
oh, shit.
100%. Absolutely. Like, she will tell you all about me. Like, I was.
Oh, I can't wait to go home and find out the inside details.
Oh
there.
yeah, I mean, she's amazing. I mean, there's nothing to it, that I couldn't, say about her. She was just.
So you were on the Italian side of Berwick.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And Monroe Street is where I grew up at.
That's right, the Monroe gang.
Yeah, exactly. If you really look into it,
with
the Champs and the Orlandos, like that's where the whole group starts coming into it.
They all lived like in the same row.
Yeah, that was like right. I was like right in between of Christy and Mark and Kyle and Matt, and then Adam, Orlando, Jimmy, and Candy, and Natalie. So I was right there. And then you had on the end of the street was Mamalou, Paul, Orlando, and Grammy. But that was like a whole different area. But they all lived on one street. And then you had the baseball field.
Okay, that's right.
And then like across the street, we had Sister Michael Jean, who she was a nun from Holy Family.
That's where my kids went. They had her. Yeah, that's when they learned a good reading and writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Today. There's a whole different story.
So when you first grew up there, when did you ever think your dad lived on Monroe Street with you?
No, he lived in Wilkes-Barre, but like he came down, like he was very well known in Berwick. Like everybody respected him to the max, like which was great because up the river, what he did in sports and all that stuff, that's what really, gave him the leverage to come down into an area like this and, kind of help out the community in a different way.
He fit in pretty well.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Was it different at all to you? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, of course.
You were different.
Yeah, I was way different.
Yeah, so
I mean, like,
so when people said, "Oh, well, that's his dad," people would give you the old. They did that to my dad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They, I got the people's eyebrow. Like, that's your dad.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't realize.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I got teased and joked like I got called like the Berwick Harris. Yeah. Because you gotta think
you kind of look like Franco Harris.
Yeah, exactly. To that too. Like you gotta think like how he was and also. But yeah, I mean, they respected him a lot, which was really good because when you think about it, like that's what you want in life. You want respect. The community to respect you also. So he gave that out instantly. It wasn't like it was, he was mean or rude or anything. Like people, when he talked, people listened. When other people talked to him, he listened too. So it was a mutual agreement. Well,
that was good. That made life easier for you.
Absolutely.
But when you were going through school, he was not. Were your parents together?
They, saw each other here and there, of course, but they weren't together fully. Okay. Which was, a whole different aspect of life because you got, single mom practically in Berwick, and you know how that goes with like some of the kids. Like you see more of like a married couple in this area. Right. So, it is what it is. It was kind of like heartbreaking as a kid. Like, don't get me wrong.
Well, no, at any time that happens, it is. I mean, I'm from a broken family. Unfortunately, my kids are from a broken family now. But your dad being as involved as he was, that makes a big difference. That makes a big difference to your life growing up because you need a father figure in your life. That's something that is very important now. And I tell parents all the time that they're going through it. I know people that are going through it now. I'm like, it's important to have the dad now, especially a strong father.
Absolutely, absolutely. It really is, and when he passed away when I was 15, like it kind of like shook up my world a little bit because I wasn't used to him not being there in his presence. Like I wasn't used to it. So like I kind of like went down a different road a little bit.
Right. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So growing up, you were a great athlete. You were, well liked. You were just well liked. I can remember you coming in here again. I've been here 30 years, so I remember you coming in, going through your high school, and you were a well liked kid. Then your dad passed away suddenly. How did that exactly happen?
A car crash. Yeah. Like it was late night, early morning. I will never forget. I was at my best friend's house, Jordan Boone, and I just remember getting a call from my aunt, and I was like, it's like 6:30. Like I'd never get these calls from her, and something just felt so off that day.
What was this? Your cell phone or
yeah, off my cell phone. Okay. Yeah, and something just felt so off, and like I had a baseball game like that day too. Like it was kind of like really like weird, but like I was like something's off, and I just remember like not answering the phone, and then like she called again, and then I remember her saying like, your dad passed away, and I like just froze for a second because I was like, what do you mean? Like, as a 15-year-old kid, who like I think I just turned 16. It was like a month after I just turned 16, going to get a permit and all that stuff, and then hearing that he's passing away from like a car crash. I'm like sitting there at the time, I'm like, this isn't real. Like I'm just dreaming. Like I thought it was a bad dream. And then my mom like came knocking on the door too, and she was just like bawling, and she was like, it's real. And like we like had a moment there. I'll never forget it. We had a moment there. I stood on the porch at my friend's house, and we like cried for like 30 seconds. And then I hopped in the car, and I was like, I went home, and I told her, I was like, I got a baseball game to play today. Like there's nothing I can do from here on out. Right. Like, so I got to kind of, be the man of the house, mature a little bit more.
Now, do you have siblings?
At the time I didn't, but I do now. Yeah.
So you were the only kid.
At the time I was.
So now your mom's probably thinking, she just lost someone who was a big part of it. Now, was she dating anybody?
No. She wasn't.
Okay, so now she lost someone who was the father of her child, who was probably the stability part of your life at that point.
Absolutely,
the man of your life, taking care of all the other things that guys are supposed to take care of. Men are supposed to take care of stuff for their son. Yeah. We're the only people that, and I'm saying to this as a father, we're the only people who want our children. We cheer harder for our children to do better than we do.
Absolutely.
And that's the only other men that we cheer for. Otherwise we want, we're competitive. So once that happens, you're now facing the reality of living life without your father. What kind of position that put you in as far as, at 15?
Yeah, it was, facing adversity. Like, it was something that I never thought that I would see at 15 years old, because I was more so focused on being the athlete I was at that time, and I was really on a path that it was, I would say, more not prepared, but just not expected. Like, you can't expect something like that at 15 years old. And I'll never forget it. I just kind of told my mom, like, there's nothing we can do right now. Like, I gotta, still be a
But
man.
even if your dad had something like cancer or something, and like you expect them to, you never, it's, how do I explain it? Like, you're not, like, you're
not
like,
ready
okay,
for
yeah, you're
it.
not ready for it.
Exactly.
Your whole world gets turned upside down.
Exactly. You're not ready for something like that. And I'm grateful at a time, that something like that happened, because it made me who I am today. It made me like develop into a better human being. I carried myself a certain way at that time during all of high school then. And there's just things that, I learned that not every kid's gonna learn. They learn it later on in life, when like they've done everything that they've done, in their 30s and 40s, when your parents start passing, or even 50s. So I faced that earlier, and it was like not a blessing in disguise, but it was more like, hey, like, this is your path in your life.
So let me get to this point now, because I do a lot of the when I do speaking, I talk about me not having a father around, and I went, you went sideways. Did you feel like you kind of went sideways there a little bit?
100%, 100%.
How was that? How was that?
When I started,
or why was that? Was it just because you could get away with anything, or is it just because, were you angry? Some people are different. Some people get angry at divorces. Some people get angry at death. Some people, get angry at God for situations like this. But what was in you? Like, what happened to you?
I had this conversation with my mom, like a year after high school. I love this conversation that we had, and I give her all the flowers for this conversation, and it really, allowed me to get to the next step of where I was at in my life. But I would say what it was is that you can't do anything, you can't change anything in what you're going through. But I also fell out of like love with the game, like with like sports. So I when I would go, I would always look for like my father in the stands. Like, I wasn't playing at the time for me, I was playing for like my father. And that's
Were you angry?
No, I wasn't angry. I was I was like in a silent place, which is like really weird to be. Like, I was at like peace, knowing that I didn't want to play anymore.
You didn't want to play?
Yeah, at the time, no, I didn't. I didn't want to play sports, like, I actually stopped playing football like my sophomore year after we lost. I'll never forget, being in the locker room, and Berwick did a whole thing for my father and all that stuff. And, that's what I love about the community. But I stopped playing my sophomore year of football because I just could not step on that field anymore. I didn't have that drive, that killer instance anymore. Like, it kind of sucked it out of me, his death, which that's just what happens at times. Like, some kids face like different angers in different ways.
Well, no, my anger was more towards the divorce. My anger was more towards what my father left. Well, he banned us. There was no divorce. So here we are, three boys going, and I got angry, just like you said, how you like, I got angry at the football field. I got angry. I didn't want to do anything anymore. I was a disaster. It was not good.
Yeah,
you don't have no desire, because you know what's funny? You said that you say how you looked in the stands, because we all want that approval from our parents. And now that guy that was there for you the whole time isn't there. So I understand that. I can understand that 100%, because I know how it was, and it seems very similar. So after that happens, and you decide to you don't want to play football anymore. What kind of path we started taking?
I didn't take a crazy path. Like, I didn't, go down.
But I'm saying ambition-wise, because it seems like you lost that.
My ambition, I definitely lost. I will, 100% say, like, I definitely lost my drive of like being that killer on the field, which everybody saw that in me. So I lost that drive because I lost that approval and I lost that like feeling of like looking in the crowd. My mom was always there. Don't get me wrong. Like I love that. Like, you know,
yeah, but moms are different.
Exactly. I was making her proud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but like when my dad was saying there, like he was my pissed off. Like,
right,
I'm getting to this like money at this time. Like, this is what I'm getting to.
Right,
like, right. You know, this is what we're gonna do. Like, we're representing, you know, our last name, but also Berwick. Like, we're representing, you know, what comes with it. So my drive when I would look and I would feel that, like I had this picture that Miss Arner, Dallas Arner's mom, she would take our pictures. She had this picture of me on the sideline, and my head just like down because I'll never forget it. Like we were at Selinsgrove, and like I just like at that moment I said like this is it. Like I can't, you know, be on the sideline anymore.
And that
like,
was what year?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like my ambition to represent, you know, the town, but also to represent like my father wasn't there because he wasn't there. If that makes, you know, sense.
No, it does. But what turned it around?
Listen, that's what the story was. You know what turned it around? I saw something in Berwick basketball. My man, Deshaun Lightyear and Chase Ryder. Like, yeah, these are like,
I remember him.
Like, we're gonna start.
What's he doing now? Do you know?
He's still around. Like, he's got kids and all. He's a great father. You know, I represent what he stands behind too. But it was like people like that, Deshaun Lightyear and Chase Ryder, and you know, all the people up at EBC, like Darren Harris, which he's a great baseball player at the time too. Like, you know, they were older, but we would go and play up at EBC basketball, like, you know, the church and all that stuff. And we would just play every night. And I'll never forget, you know, the Central kids came in the one time.
Where was EBC?
EBC's right where your old house was.
Oh, okay, that is.
Yeah.
It's now switched to LBC.
Correct. It's LBC now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I was wondering.
But like I'll never forget this. Like the kids from Central came in, and my boy Day, like, he was like, yo, like these kids are here for you. And, you know, XYZ, like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to represent Berwick?
Right.
And then like it hit me there. Like it was like a December night. Like it was cold and it just hit me. And, you know, he was like, I think it's time. Like, I think it's time for you to go back and play. Like, I think, you know, you need to do something. And then like I realized how bad Berwick basketball was, which gave me a challenge because Berwick football's, you know, at the time was really dominant.
Right.
Like we were, you know, still going to championships, conference championships, trying to make our way into like states and all that stuff. Like we were still very high roading on that. And I think that's another thing that, you know, I didn't really like at the time to take in consideration was realizing that I needed a challenge.
Right.
Like I feel like if I would have like stayed on that path, that would have been like an easy route for me.
Right.
So the challenge is like, well, since Berwick basketball is bad, why not be the face? And then why not change the program and why not change the culture there?
Right. At the time, who's your coach?
That was Kingery.
Kingery.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that was Kingery.
Okay. So what about so take me back to you getting back into basketball, and you played basketball and baseball at the time. What did that feel like when you were doing it? Were you finally getting back to the person that you were back in the day, where you were
I would say more in basketball.
Okay.
I think like it was the killer in me. Like that like came back out. Like it made me like realize like it's a one-on-one sport really. There's 5 guys, but when you break it down, it really is a one-on-one sport. Like it's you against the guy, and then there's other pieces that come in, you know, but the guy, your objective is to get past the guy in front of you and then to score. And then, you know, that's when another player comes over if there's sliding defenses and all that stuff. But that's what really made me, you know, get that drive to go back in and realize that I could just dominate the guy in front of me the whole time.
When you lost your father, who was there a mentor that popped in who slid into that place?
John Pruitt.
John Pruitt. One of the legendary players here.
Precious P.
Yeah.
That's my man. That's my man.
One of the legendary athletes here in Berwick, which we'll get through that list shortly. But what gravitated you to him?
My father and him were like beyond close.
Okay.
Yeah, like it went like decades back. Like, yeah, so this is what's really crazy too about it all. Like when you really like say like life's full circle, like this moment right here, you and I, is a full circle moment.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like, so yeah, when you really say it, so since I could remember, I lived behind John in an apartment with my mom and dad. And then John had his house right there where he's always been.
Right.
So there used to be.
Oh, John always been there?
Okay. Always been there. So we would go over there. You know, he knew my father from sports and all that stuff in my family, and then they would connect. But we've always, you know, been close since I could remember. And at the time, like that, there was, you know, a huge lot where Dollar General is. And it used to just be a really big open lot.
Yes.
And that's where my dad and John and I would go and play football and baseball. Like they would just train me down in that little lot. And I remember just hitting baseballs and throwing footballs and catching, like, you know, just getting ready for what was happening. And that's,
did you ever run track?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I figured if John was involved, he'd be running track.
Absolutely. And, you know, because when you're a football player, you run track also, you know, for your speed and all that. Kids need to get back into that. That's how I knew John, you know, my whole life, and he became my guardian after my dad passed away.
Oh, okay. So he kind of straight, and John obviously he's a gym teacher, so that's good that he's in the school system. How'd your grades do? How were your grades?
You know, I was high school. Yeah, I was high school, of course. Like, you know, you realize you can get, you know, away with X amount of things in high school, but then when you get to college, like I was dean's list and all that stuff. But when you get to high school, you're like, in middle school, you're like, yeah, I can barely, you know, study. Like this really doesn't mean anything, but it does. Like it really, you know, takes an accountability later on. Okay, so then what year did you graduate? 2015.
2015. Holy Jesus.
Yeah, how about 10 years?
Well, you're saying it to me. I'm thinking of how old I am.
Yeah, well, that too.
I'm thinking to myself, just 2015, you graduate, you go, but you left Berwick at that time. Where'd you go to college?
Utah. Weber State.
Utah?
Yeah, oh yeah. Weber State.
No kidding.
Small D1 school.
Why Utah though?
Listen, the man with a plan. That's all I have to say. I was a man with a plan, and I needed something different. Like people don't realize.
Oh, that's different there.
People don't realize how beautiful Utah is. Like it was a breath. It was a breath of fresh air. Like I needed that.
Was it near Salt Lake City?
Ogden, which is like.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when you moved out there, how'd your mom take that?
She loved it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Because you got to think how much traveling I was really doing with sports beforehand. Like, you know, with football university, I was all over the place with my dad. Like, we went to South Bend, Indiana. Like, we were all over Florida. We were in Georgia, Maryland. Like, we were traveling up and down the East Coast. So she always wanted that for me. You know, my family is a very high traveling, you know, family, and they love, you know, that we branch out. So when I said I was going to Utah, she was like, you know, thank God.
Yeah. What'd you study there?
Accounting.
Accounting. Okay. Did you want a future in accounting, or did you think, hey, I could do something in the sports realm? Like, what did you want to do?
So I was always good with money. Like in the end of it all, you know, my mom always said, like, try and find something with money, because, like, you know, since I was a kid, I was all about $20 bills. You know,
sound like my kids.
Yeah,
that's good. With inflation, it's hundreds.
Yeah, now that's crazy.
Yeah, like, no, it's just ridiculous.
Benjamin is crazy. So yeah, I was just an Andrew Jackson guy.
Okay. Oh, geez.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's how deep it really goes of, you know, what my knowledge was behind it and why she wanted me to do accounting. So she was like, you know, go into accounting. Went into accounting. Did like was an accountant for a real estate investment firm out there for like 5 years. And it went really well. And then, you know, that's what I realized about like life, is that everything's timing. So the timing at the time, you know, when I went out there for 6 years was amazing. Like that was great for me to be out there. I got to see like the ups and downs of Utah, but also it made me like understand the ups and downs of life too. By like being out there by myself, you have to survive. Like it, no matter what, like I don't know the neighbor, or I don't know like how I would, you know, if I knew my best friend down the street when I went to school. Like I had to go out there and network and socialize to people. And that's a really big thing that, you know, made me realize that timing is everything. But it happened truthfully when I had my daughter. Like that's what made me want to come back home for a little bit.
Okay. So, all right, let me just backtrack a little bit.
Oh,
My
yeah.
daughter just got thrown in the picture here.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that was going on. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. You have a daughter. Oh, wait, hold on. Now, wait a second.
I can't believe you didn't.
No, I didn't know. I thought you were married.
Yeah, I can't.
Are you married?
No, we're getting to that.
You're getting to that stage.
Yeah,
okay, so
that stage.
All right. Is this the mother of your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. She's an amazing woman.
All right.
Too.
No. I see pictures of her online. I mean, you've done it. You totally outkicked your coverage.
I try. All right. Here we go.
So, I mean, I'm just being honest.
She's definitely one of the ones for sure.
So, Mike. So you're in college. You work for the investment firm. You find your girlfriend in Utah.
No, I found her in Bloomsburg when I came back home.
What the hell is going on?
Listen. When I came back home, it was like I went to her family's restaurant and all that stuff. And
wait. So what's her restaurant?
La Melbeck, which shout out to La Melbeck and all that stuff. That? In Bloomsburg.
Back. I'm not from.
Shout out Matt Zapetti and Roxanne.
Zapetti. That's where it is. Yep. Okay, them. Yep. Okay. Yep. Oh, okay. That's where it is.
Exactly.
Okay. There you go. Okay. So what? So what happened now?
So I came back home and she was working there and she just came.
Look at you. Look at you.
You know me, right? Just smooth criminal, smooth brother.
God.
But we really kicked it off and she kind of made me want to come back home for a while. And I did the old classic don't come back home for a girl, but I had to because of how well of a human being she is. I had to come back home to really solidify myself for her and to let her know I do want to take the next stages of life with her, but also my goal is to go to the next stage of that, and that's to also leave Pennsylvania so we can go and adventure back out into the world.
Okay.
But that's how.
So you meet her in Bloomsburg. She's a student. She was a student there.
No, she was just.
She was done with school and everything else. So you meet her. You decide to come back. Never the best move.
I know.
Never the best move.
I know. It's the classic.
And I'm saying it because you say you did the classic move. I took from the forbidden fruit. I my first marriage, I married someone who worked for me. That which was never gonna work out good. It happens. But now that you say you now have someone that, and you're 30 years old now.
28. Relax with the 30.
You said you got a 96 you were born.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you're 30. Yeah. So
pump the brakes. That's scary to hear.
But what I'm saying is you're now advanced now in your life. Now you're getting a little more advanced. When did you have your daughter?
Last year.
Okay. Yes, you did. I did see that. I don't keep up on the Facebook stuff, man.
It's okay.
But, all right. So anyway,
I keep her very well hidden too because I want to. I don't want to blast my kid all over social media, and that's just because I want her to have her own privacy even at a young age, and I don't like how creepy people are really with social media. I don't like that at all. People are kind of weirdos in this world.
Weird. Yeah, there's some weird people out there.
This is real life.
You wouldn't think it, and then all of a sudden you look at you see these stories.
Yeah,
and you're like, what the hell? That guy, I knew that guy.
Exactly.
What the hell?
I went to school with this dude. Megan's come on, it's a little scary. It really is. So and especially now that I have a daughter, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, that's way different.
It's a whole different ball game now. And I really started tapping into my emotional maturity and understanding that there's certain ways that you handle females. And then with my daughter, I'm gonna have to handle certain scenarios and situations with her, as she starts to get older, and I'm gonna have to realize that Uncle Ben is not Uncle Ben.
Right. Well, how are you gonna? Where are you gonna pull that from? As far as handling that, where are you gonna pull it from? That you're gonna get it from Johnny Pruitt? You're gonna get it from or is that something?
No, that's how well my dad raised me.
Okay.
That's in that little time frame of 15 years. Really, it was 9 years of my life because the first X amount of years you don't remember, but he really instilled that in me as a mature man. He wasn't preparing me just for an athlete. He was preparing me to handle life.
Right. So when little Johnny comes to take John's daughter out, he's going to have to come to Mr. Harris's house to open it.
He better knock on the door and introduce himself.
Okay, that's all right. So,
like, Johnny better shake my hand and look me in the face. Like,
okay, so now that we have the whole picture now, okay, we have the whole picture now. You meet your girlfriend, who now becomes a fiance or what have you. You have your child with them. You want to come back to Berwick. What was one of the first things that made? What is one of the first things that made you say, "I want to come here and raise somewhat of my daughter's life, the first part of her life in Berwick"?
You know what it was is that like I had to tap back into that like understanding of how like crucial family is in the beginning stages, and then you start getting later on. But I had to like really like grasp that. Like I didn't want my mom to miss like the first year, 2 years, like without her granddaughter.
Is your wife or girlfriend, fiance's parents here?
No, they're in a different state.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
So like, but her whole family like is in this area too. So it's like, yeah, it all combines together when you really think about it. Like, but like that's like where like I made that decision where I had to kind of like understand that as I started to mature and I was going through things, of course, that I was having my ego put in play, and that's how it goes. Like, but I had to like get past that and understand that, there's just things that Berwick can give. Like Berwick gives you a lot, to be honest. And a lot of people don't realize this, like how well Berwick can really give you something. But,
well, believe me, if there's something that Berwick can give you, I could be the testament to say, here I was. So, well, we're going to approaching this year next year will be 30 years. Came here in 1996, and I came here with a heavy bag and a little car, and a bag of clothes.
And look where you're at.
Well, let's not get nuts here.
Listen,
I have a lot to I have a lot to be thankful for, and a lot of it had to come from the people here at Berwick that I met. I've met a ton of people. I really have. And they've all been good for me. All been good for me. Even from the issues that I've had in my past with my ex-wife, their family has been so good to me that it's kind of like you could forget that kind of stuff. That stuff can go away. But Berwick will do things for you that and it's because it's a small town. The good and the bad you get with it.
Absolutely.
The good, they'll come to you. They'll pull together for you if you need something. I've noticed that with Kim Nestle. The stuff that we've done for her. It's amazing that the town is pulled together, but the bad is also too. If you do bad, you're gonna be on the front page of the paper and in 30 seconds.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's just how it goes. But
I know.
Shout out to like the good though. Like to be honest,
you have to. You have to, because there wouldn't be as many positive things that have come out of Berwick if it wasn't for the way the community comes together. It just there's just because we're still a small town.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't know that.
Like you said about the Kim Nestle stuff,
tremendous.
That's amazing. It's beautiful what the town can give. Especially when you start talking about that type of realm of life. You had Andy McDaniel too.
I was just going to get to that.
That's so beautiful.
What was your relationship with that?
My whole life I grew up with the McDaniels. Like that's like practically like my like family too.
Okay.
Like that's always gonna be like there's no question about it. And since I could remember, like I've been around the McDaniels. It's from sports to hanging out at their pool. I mean, everybody knows about their notorious house that they had on the corner right by the baseball field. And like their pool parties they had and whatever it was. Like that's the McDaniels were included in everything.
Right.
So that's
so she ended up, and that was the oldest daughter or the
oldest daughter.
The oldest daughter of John ended up having a cancer. And how old was she when she passed?
I think she was my age.
I think she was your age.
I think she was my age.
But again, there you go to show you that now John's a good friend of mine. He's always been he was a tremendous guy through that whole experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was like, I never knew somebody who could be that strong in going through, because I couldn't really. First of all, I wouldn't want to think about it, but going through that, there's no playbook. There's no playbook for going through where your kid is struggling, because you'd rather have it on you. You'd say, "Hey, give it to me," and that's just what you do as a father. And you'll get that as you go down further.
I know.
But as strong as he was, I never saw him waver at all.
No,
he always was, and that was one thing I couldn't believe. He never wavered.
Mac.
Like, J Mac is J Mac.
Yeah, he's the man. Like people don't like. He is like what the community needs. Like people like that is what the community needs. And I love that, like, there's people like him who he can weather the storm and you know, God forbid, I don't want anybody to ever go through something like that.
No.
You know, all the siblings too, like that is rough. Like that is a rough thing for a family to go through, but they're one of the strongest families I know.
Yeah.
My whole life. Like, so, you know, for them to go through that and to get through what they're at right now, like I just give them the utmost respect. Right. And I just, there's nothing I can say to, you know, other than to give them their flowers and let them understand that we are all behind them as a community. And it was a great
little stretch that they had, the community pulled together there, and they're still going through it now with Kim Nestle. So where'd you, when you find your fiance, I'm gonna call her your fiance, I'm just gonna go with that, and you now move back to Berwick, okay, did you have a plan?
Yeah, I mean,
as far as now, here you are as a dad.
Yeah, we all have plans. I mean, you know, my plan still is to get to where I want to be. You know, I really don't like to address plans to an extent, but like, yeah, I still have my plan. It's, and you know, slowly getting intact because we got slow, you know, steps that we have to get to, but I still have my plan. My plan is, you know, still working towards where I need to be. Like I'm still on that pattern of where I need to go.
Is your fiance just working at the?
No, she's a business owner.
Oh, she's a business owner. Okay, you brought her right in, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually helped her with her business, you know, but she always had that drive. So I can't knock that hustle of what's in her.
And are you now living currently in Berwick?
No, Bloomsburg. You know what her hustle was, or you know what your ex-wife hustles was either. Like
I can tell you what my ex-wife's hustle was, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Okay?
Listen, we can't do that. Can't do that. You know we can't do that.
I'm just telling you the truth.
We can't do that.
Oh, anyway. So like, we'll go back. I get that, and I get where you're coming from with that. But to a point, do you want to grow the business together, or do you want to have your own? Because I sometimes feel the man and woman have to have separate entities. Okay, no, but I'm saying like you want to be. She's going to be designed as this person. She's the face of that company. You're the face of this company. But together, because it's hard to come home at night to eat dinner and talk about business. It just is. Do you find it difficult?
No,
to do that?
No, because we
man, you are way different than most people.
Thrive. Well, you got to think that who her family is also. Like they're, you know, very successful business companies. You know, they've done Santee D'Ambrosio too. That's one of their family members.
Okay, hold on for a second. Now I'm getting all confused up in here. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So like, you know, like there's that angle to that, but like then you have Santee who married the one sister. Yep. So like when it comes to business in that family,
better to have.
Exactly. And there's no argument. Like there's never an argument when it comes to what's going on. Like there's always, Uncle Matty says this all the time, problem solution. Like problem solution. Let's not overthink this. Problem solution. That's it. Keep it to that.
Matt can get a little nutty.
I love him to death. I love that whole family. Yeah, I love that. Love that whole family.
I've seen him a couple times on the front page of the paper hitting heavy bag.
What in the world is going on with Matt? He's the big dog. He's the big dog of Bloom, and it's amazing to think like what he really does. Like he cares for that community out there, also the same way we care for Berwick. Like I would love to, you know, I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with him, but I'd love to, you know, get to that next step of like understanding what he really like does for that community, because he is like such a huge impact on that Bloomsburg community as for how everybody tries to strive for Berwick.
Yeah, no, I know. It could be good and bad. It could be a lightning rod, or it could be holy cow.
But that's what you get when you know you're at the top.
Yeah, no, I know. When you get the crown, you're like, holy cow, what the hell? Everyone's coming after. It's always easier to get. It's harder to maintain because now you're the guy they're going after. You're the guy. You know, it's almost like boxing. You're the guy that they're going after.
That means you're doing something right.
Really? Okay. All right.